Chapter 1077. After Leah finished cooking, Oriton was in a bewitched state. His eyes were fixed on the pot, and his face was flushed red. Gu Mengmeng felt that even if she suggested chopping off one of Oriton's hands in exchange for him eating, he would not even blink, and would only ask if it was his left or right hand. Gu Mengmeng was very naughty as she deliberately used an exaggerated eating method to taste Lee's cooking. She used the words commonly used in food shows to exaggerate her praises, while purposely waving the bowl in front of Oriton. She pretended to be innocent and said, "It smells so good, Oriton, take a sniff." Oriton wanted to hit someone. Gu Mengmeng put down her bowl and chopsticks, holding her chin as she looked at Oriton and said, "Answer a few of my questions. If I am satisfied, I will let you eat." Oriton's expression did not change from beginning to end. He still had a poker face, but his eyes obviously lit up. Gu Mengmeng asked, "Why did you listen to Oakley's arrangements and leave without even informing me?" Oriton replied, "Oakley told me and Barit about his arrangements." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "So you also sympathized with him and Bloom, so you listened to his arrangements?" "No." Oriton shook his head and said, "I don't understand and have no interest in love. I will also not sacrifice half a year's worth of delicacies for that kind of thing." Gu Mengmeng laughed. Hearing his words, he sounded so wronged. In order to eat as soon as possible, Oriton started explaining in detail without holding back. "According to Oakley's plan, you will definitely not be back for a while. But if Ian is the only one in St. Nazaire, it will be hard to control the situation. First is the food storage for the winter. Last year, there was already news that St. Nazaire had a way to store food to prevent it from going bad. This year, the tribesmen of St. Nazaire started hunting in large numbers during the rainy season, which almost confirmed this rumor. If you are in St. Nazaire, there is naturally no need to say anything. But if you are not here..." Oriton paused for a moment before turning around to look at Elvis and Leah, before looking at Gu Mengmeng. He continued, "If the other tribes have a way to store food but St. Nazaire doesn't, what do you think your two partners will do to ensure that you don't have to starve during the winter?" What to do? Was there a need to say? Snatch it. Gu Mengmeng had no doubt that if they were in each other's shoes, Elvis would bring back all the food from the other party's tribe to ensure that she would have enough food during winter. The other males in the beast world might not be as powerful as him, but for their own females, they would definitely have the guts to do so. In this way, St. Nazaire would become the target of public criticism. An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Gu Mengmeng nodded, indicating that she understood. Actually, Oriton did not really understand what Gu Mengmeng was talking about, so he did not answer Gu Mengmeng. He just continued to be honest. "You're not around, Elvis and Leah are also not around, so St. Nazaire is in a protective vacuum state. This is equivalent to a pot of fragrant meat stewed. But there is no one guarding the side of the pot, so the wild beasts attracted by the fragrance of the food will naturally not be polite." Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Oriton's analogy really showed the true colors of a foodie. He couldn't help but tease. "So you came back to protect your food?" Chapter 1078. Gu Mengmeng nodded in agreement and thought to herself, "Snatching food from the tiger's mouth is courting death." Oriton continued, "Even if Barit and I came back to guard, this rainy season is still very tough. People come in waves. The land beasts patrol in the day and the Eagle Owl tribe guards the entire night. Once there's any disturbance, all the tribesmen will join the battle immediately. Even so, almost half of the food has been snatched away. Luckily, with last year's experience, we are especially well prepared this year. So even if a lot of food has been snatched away, it's still enough for everyone to survive through the winter." Gu Mengmeng nodded and felt a little more at ease. Actually, the reason why she dared to abandon the entire St. Nazaire and head to Sauter was mainly because the families of the 16 valued females she brought back from the beauty pageant all had powerful males. Each family had at least 1 or 2 4th-level beasts, and at least 4 or 5 3rd-level beasts. This kind of strength was enough to look down on the entire beast world. In terms of the tribe's overall strength, no tribe was a match for them. But Gu Mengmeng had neglected one thing. These 16 valued females came from 16 different tribes. They were originally the most beautiful females in their tribes, and the males in their families were all extremely powerful in their original tribes. This led to a very serious problem. No one was willing to submit to anyone, and they would only care about their own family's matters when faced with a problem. So Oakley arranged for Barit and Oriton to come back, because they were the messenger's guards and had a certain status in the beast world. In addition, those females had a kind of blind admiration for Gu Mingming, and even looked up to her guards. So the two of them had to come back. Not just to increase their fighting strength, but more importantly, to have someone who could make the decision when faced with a problem. They would not let Saint Nazir become a pile of loose sand and be defeated by others one by one. Oriton continued, "The rainy season after the winter is better. There's plenty of water and food, but the following dry season is the second problem." Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat and she frowned. Water source. Oakley had spread the news about the water source. Sauter was indeed the #1 battlefield, but those who did not dare to face Gu Mingming, and the rest would naturally set their sights on Saint Nazir where the great demon king was not at home. After all, there was also a well here. Water in the dry season was equivalent to food in the winter, and the temptation was fatal. Oriton stared at the meat in Gu Mingming's bowl, and swallowed his saliva. Then he continued, "Luckily Fei Rue has been guarding the well all this while. Once someone nears the well, he will let out a high-pitched warning sound, and the tribesmen will rush over in time." These rounds of battles are really exhausting. Letting out a sigh, Oriton continued, "If you had not returned, we would have been thrown into a new round of battle." Yes, the rainy season had arrived, and it was time to prepare food for the winter. If Gu Mingming was not around, the fight for food would definitely happen again. Gu Mingming sighed, feeling that she would not be able to spend this rainy season comfortably. Chapter 1079. It was not an exaggeration to say that Oriton's eyes were almost shooting out lasers, the kind of intensity that could shoot down a plane in the night sky. All the blood vessels in his body were about to explode, but he still looked at Gu Mingming with a poker face and asked, "Are you really giving it to me?" Gu Mingming felt like laughing at Oriton's expression. It was clearly written on his face that, "I will bite you to death if you don't give it to me." But his mouth still asked such an additional question. TSK, he was just being honest. She directly stuffed the bowl into Oriton's hands and said, "Here, eat it." Oriton did not even bother to say a word of thanks as he directly lifted the bowl and poured the contents into his mouth. Yes, using chopsticks was too slow. He had already suffered for more than half a year, and every cell in his body was screaming for Li's food. He was really hungry and thirsty. Gu Mingming did not know whether to laugh or cry as she watched him eating. Those who did not know better would have thought that he was a starving ghost that crawled out from hell. "Slow down, don't chew your own tongue too." Gu Mingming teased. "Sorry, your good friend Oriton has already gone offline." Gu Mingming scooped another bowl and passed it to Barit, saying, "You eat too, you've worked hard for so long." Barit was not as stubborn as Oriton about food. Although Li's food was indeed delicious, Barit felt that such exquisite food should be eaten by females. Males did not need to be so particular about food, but this bowl was given to him by Gu Mingming personally. Not to mention delicious food. Even if it was a bowl of poison, he would not waste a single drop. Ian sat on the tree in a sickly state and lowered his head to look at Gu Mingming, saying, "Hey, I leveled up." Gu Mingming looked up and squinted at Ian carefully. He still looked like a sickly prince, but if she looked closely, there was an extra feather above his ears. Now there were 3 feathers growing vertically above each of his ears. Gu Mingming raised her head and narrowed her eyes. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "Hey, congratulations." Ian snorted coldly and said, "Do you think I wanted to level up? It was all because you were not around for half a year and I was forced to work so hard to level up." TSK, still congratulating? What are you congratulating me for? A wave of beast pressure assaulted them without any warning. Ian fell from the tree and Oriton, who was eating, crashed his bowl onto the ground. Barit, who was sitting beside Gu Mingming, also fell to the ground. Even Leah was not spared. He stumbled and almost fell into the pot. Gu Mingming looked at Wabiai. "Little shit, what's wrong with you?" Wabi glanced at Ian lazily and said, I'm not happy that someone is talking back to you in front of me. Gu Mingming chuckled and slapped Wabi on the shoulder. Aren't you the one who deases me the most? Wabi straightened his neck and said, That's different. I am the strongest, so I can fight you. Scum who can't even beat me. What right does he have to talk back to you? So what you mean is that you will protect those who are weaker than you and ignore those who are stronger than you? Gu Mingming stared at Wabi with widened eyes. Wabi nodded without hesitation. That's right. When Snake tortured you in the past, I didn't dare to make a sound. Chapter 1080. Wabi was dizzy from Gu Mingming's shaking. He raised his hand to smack her on the head and pushed her far away. What are you shaking for? My head is spinning. Is your brain filled with sh*t? In the entire beast world, only Snake was more powerful than me, but you took him in. Now you are the only one more powerful than me. If you really want to put on a show of bashing yourself, what else can I do other than to sit by the side and watch? Go up and give you 2 slaps and say you are not allowed to bash yourself? Gu Mingming's head was red from the smack, but she was not angry. She suddenly laughed out loud and took a step forward. She lifted Wabi's chin with an evil smile. Little baby, how did you know that my mind was filled with you just now? Wabi felt a chill run down his spine. He was a cold-blooded animal and could not feel the cold, but this was the first time he felt as though his bones were frozen. Waves of nausea churned in his stomach. He raised his leg to kick Gu Mingming, but she beat him to it and stepped on his ankle, pressing him down. Gu Mingming was clearly very skinny, but her strength was not just for show. Especially when she was hitting Wabi, she did not hold back at all. Wabi was immobilized by Gu Mingming. Damn, he felt as though he was an emperor being countered by a weak attacker. So damn ashamed. The bumps all over his body fell to the ground. Wabi glared at Gu Mingming fiercely. Get lost. Who the hell are you calling little baby? You are the little baby. Your entire tribe is little baby. Io little shit, are you shy? Ha ha ha. Gu Mingming suddenly had a wicked sense of humor. She laughed sinisterly like a thief. Ha ha ha, go ahead and scream. Even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one will come to help you. Wabi stiffened his neck and howled. Hey little wolf. Your female is in heat. Why aren't you bringing her back to the cave to settle it? Don't let her out to harm others. Gu Mingming did not give off any scent of the fox's seductive fragrance. She was not in heat at all. Elvis and Leah knew this very well. Moreover, the smile on Gu Mingming's face was really not related to lust at all. That was the expression of a little demon pranking someone. In this world, Wabi was probably the only one who could argue with Gu Mingming like this without Elvis and Leah feeling the slightest bit jealous. Elvis, who was singled out, chuckled and said, You are powerful and loyal to Xiaoming. If she has the intention to accept you, it will be a good thing for our family. I don't oppose it. I advise you to give in. You can't win against her anyway. Wabi's fangs began to tremble. F***K. What kind of family was this? Turning his head to look at Leah, Wabi said, Hey coquettish fox, hurry up and control your female. Your female is crazy. But Leah waved his tail and said coquettishly, my heart is still pounding from the beast pressure you released just now. I will slow down, you hang in there first, good luck. I have high hopes for you. Gu Mingming laughed out loud. She gripped Wabi's arms tightly with both hands and stepped on his legs. And because Wabi was sitting down, Gu Mingming's entire body was like a slanted board, forming a right triangle with Wabi. She grinned so hard that her eyes were squinted, and she even raised her brows at Wabi. Aside from the topic, that's all for today's update. See you tomorrow, There shouldn't be any problems with teasing little shit, right? Chapter 1081. Wabi had no choice but to admit defeat. Gu Mingming, you are my ancestor. I was wrong, alright? Can you clear your F***king head? Gu Mingming pushed Wabi to stand up. She clapped her hands. Tisk, so boring. Admitting defeat so quickly. Wabi flexed his wrist, which had almost been broken by Gu Mingming. He said fiercely, If I don't admit defeat, I will not be able to keep my chastity in my old age. Are those two in your family not enough to satisfy you? Why don't you consider taking in 2 more strong partners to fill the emptiness? I think those 3 are not bad. Wabi casually pointed at Barit, Oriton and Ian. Ian was the first to explode. You are giving something that you don't even want to me? Wabi narrowed his eyes. You are just a bird and you dare to despise the saintess of our Snake King Valley? You must be tired of living. Ian's face was flushed red, but he could not say a word. He could not refute. Although he could fly, Wabi could easily slap him down from the sky with his beast pressure. He could not beat him. Oriton said in a low voice. If food is included, I don't mind. Leah chuckled. I mind. Let me tell you, you better not have any designs on my gu meng meng. Otherwise, I will make sure you have no cooked food to eat for the rest of your life. Oriton nodded his head cautiously and said, Don't worry, I am only interested in food. As for females, Oriton looked at Gu Mingming seriously, but still shook his head and said, I feel that females are not as attractive as a plate of roasted meat. The great messenger is a little special. Probably 3 days' worth of rations, no more. Gu Mingming face-bombed. Damn it. Previously, Sandy had pushed her out of solder for a portion of fruits. Now Oriton was stabbing her in the back. Losing to roasted meat was so depressing. She felt like she was in a daze. Barit remained silent. He knew this was a joke that made him feel suffocated. He desperately wished it was real. Unfortunately, a joke was just a joke. Apart from him, no one would take it seriously. So Barit lowered his head and sat quietly on the spot. He tried to calm his surging emotions from Wabi's casual pointing. He unworthy. The noisy dinner ruined the quiet night, and the cave, which had not been inhabited for a long time, seemed to have warmed up a lot. When Gu Mingming returned to the cave to sleep, it was already dawn. This was the good thing about the cave. There were no windows. As long as she lived in it, the time outside would not affect her. Gu Mingming, who had planned to have a good sleep for a day and a night, was woken up by someone when she was deep in her dreams. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Ever since she inherited Snake's ability, her hearing was as good as having a loudspeaker in her ears. Even the slightest movement could be heard clearly. This obvious fighting sound was like a series of kicks being thrown into her ears. Gu Mingming sat up abruptly and realized that Elvis and Leah were no longer in the cave. Needless to say, the ones fighting at the door were definitely the 2 of them. Gu Mingming rolled up her sleeves and walked out in an aggressive manner. As she walked, she hollered, Sparing people from their dreams is like killing their parents. Damn it, which one of you doesn't want to live anymore? How dare you disturb my sleep? The fighting sound stopped abruptly. Elvis and Leah ran in together. One hugged Gu Mingming firmly while the other hurriedly handed her a cup of water. After all. Chapter 1082. Gu Mingming's entire body was emitting a dark aura. The lack of sleep had caused her to be in an extremely bad mood. The moment she came out of the cave, the sunlight was blinding. Elvis's large hands gently covered her eyes so that she could adapt to the light. Ever since she inherited Snake's abilities, her eyes were no longer the only way she could explore the world. Every cell in her body could tell her what was happening in places she could not see. Who are you? What's the matter? Gu Mingming's face accurately met with the people causing trouble at her door. Her teeth chattered loudly. Gu Mingming's voice was clearly gentle, but it made those few people shudder in fear, as if they had been frozen into ice under the scorching sun. Great messenger, wee. Those people were so frightened by Gu Mingming's anger that their stomachs cramped up. Damn, they had been stray beasts for so many years and had done all kinds of dirty deeds. They had gone through so many life and death battles and faced countless near-death situations, but they had never felt so scared before. Indeed, bad people should stick to their character. It was much easier to snatch things than to give them away. Damn, it was really hard to be a good person. It was too scary. The gap between Elvis's fingers gradually opened, allowing the sunlight to land on Gu Mingming's eyes. Gu Mingming could already see the huge stone basins behind the stray beasts. They were filled with grapes. Raising her brows, Gu Mingming felt strangely less annoyed. Her tone also became better, but she was still a little lazy. She rested her forehead on Elvis's shoulder and glanced sideways at the orcs who had come to deliver the gifts. "These are for me? Who asked you to deliver them?" "Great Lord Cole asked us to deliver." The stray beasts also felt very aggrieved. They did not back down when they were fighting Elvis just now, but now they could not even straighten their tongues in front of Gu Meng Meng. Tsk. Although she had guessed it, she was still in a bad mood. Rolling her eyes, she said, "Take them away, I don't want Cole's things." With that, Gu Meng Meng turned her head back to Elvis's shoulder, indicating that she wanted to return to the cave to continue sleeping. Upon seeing Gu Meng Meng's reaction, the stray beast immediately said, "But these fruits were personally plucked by young master. Sir Cole is only helping young master to deliver them. Great messenger, please don't waste young master's filial piety." Gu Meng Meng paused and turned to look at the stray beast. Seeing that he was stuttering from the very beginning, this sentence came out so smoothly. Someone must have taught him, right? Young master? Gu Meng Meng did not bother about who had taught him to say that sentence, because she did not need to ask to know, and she did not want to hear that name again. The stray beast saw that Gu Meng Meng had indeed stopped in her tracks after following Cole's instructions. Even her reaction was exactly as Cole had predicted. He felt more assured and did not stutter so much. He nodded and replied, "Yes, young master Qixian." Gu Meng Meng frowned. She was in a very bad mood. She did not want Qixian to have anything to do with Cole, but Qixian had been kept by Cole's side for so long that even the stray beasts had to call Qixian young master. What the f***ck? Qixian was not Cole's son. But there was no point in talking to these small fries. Gu Meng Meng clenched her fists and said, "I know, leave the things here and scram." Chapter 1083. Gu Meng Meng squatted beside the few big basins of grapes, and reached out to pinch one before sending it into her mouth. Elvis snatched the grape away from Gu Meng Meng's lips and with a nimble tongue, he sent the grape into his mouth. After chewing for a while he said, "The taste is very mild, but it was indeed plucked by Qixian. But since it was sent by Cole's men, I have to be on guard. You can only eat it if I am fine before nightfall, understand?" Gu Meng Meng said helplessly, "Have you forgotten that I have snake's poison in my body? In the entire beast world, I am the most poisonous person. Other poisons cannot harm me at all. Even if there is poison, it will be neutralized by snake's poison." Elvis tapped Gu Meng Meng's little nose and said, "If you have nothing to fear, be careful of being taken advantage of. Leah and I cannot afford to take any risks." Gu Meng Meng was helpless and had no other choice. These two people were overly protective of her, and could not bear to see any harm befall on her. And she rather enjoyed this protection, so she did not say much and just asked Elvis to put her down before asking him and Leah to carry the grapes into the cave. Gu Meng Meng was not fully awake, and now that the annoying fellows were gone, she naturally returned to the cave to catch up on her sleep. She slept all the way until the afternoon. Leah was afraid that she was hungry and entered the cave after cooking. He laid beside Gu Meng Meng and used his furry large tail to lightly brush her arm. His gentle gaze landed on Gu Meng Meng's defenseless little face, and he could not help but peck her lightly. He called out gently beside her ear, "Meng Meng, I am so bored, don't sleep. Open your eyes and look at me, Gu Meng Meng hummed and instinctively hugged Li's tail, turning around and burrowing into Li's arms. Li's arms were filled by Gu Meng Meng, and his heart was also filled to the brim. His voice unconsciously became softer and softer, like a gentle breeze blowing past. His slender and bony hands were in Gu Meng Meng's hair. Her silky hair was as smooth as black silk, coiling around his fingers gently. "All right, I'll hug you until you want to get up." Kissing the top of her head, Leah chuckled. "I really don't know what to do with you." She did not know if it was because Li's gaze was too hot or because Gu Meng Meng had had enough sleep, but after a while, Gu Meng Meng raised her head and gave him a sweet smile even before she opened her eyes. Her voice was a little hoarse and carried the unique tenderness of a morning. Morning, it was just one word, but it moved the corners of Li's lips. He pinched Gu Meng Meng's little nose and said, "I was afraid that you would be hungry and hoped that you would wake up earlier. I also yearned for your dependence, and wanted you to sleep a little longer in my arms. I really don't know what to do with you. Gu Mingming smiled as she buried her face into Li's chest and rubbed against it. Yeah, I'm really hungry. Leah carried Gu Mingming up from the bed and carried her out of the cave. As he walked, he said, "The food has already been prepared, just waiting for you to wake up." Gu Mingming was still hugging Li's tail in her arms. After waking up, she was like an angel, radiating a bright and gentle light. She was the complete opposite of the little demon she was in the morning. Chapter 1084. Gu Mingming turned to look at Elvis, who chuckled as he sat beside her. I saw that the table in Sauter's stone castle was quite suitable for you. It was troublesome to move it around, so I made one for you while you were asleep. Do you like it? Gu Mingming smiled and nodded. Although it is delicious to eat by the fire, I still prefer to sit at the table properly. Elvis had already noticed this, so he made a table for her the moment he came back. I will make a smaller one and place it in the cave. This way, you can eat at the table during winter. Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head gently. He would give her whatever she wanted. Gu Mingming nodded. Then she looked at Oriton, who was circling around Li's stone pot, and Barit, who was standing in the shade and staring at his toes. Since you are here, come and sit here. There were 3 stone stools on each side of the rectangular table. The one in the middle was covered with a thick layer of beast skin. It was obviously Gu Mingming's seat. Elvis and Li's seats were naturally on the left and right of the table. Wabiai was already seated in the middle of the 3 stone stools opposite them. Although he did not care much about these cooked foods and the portions were too small, he still enjoyed eating with Gu Mingming. He felt that there should be a seat for Snake on this table. Since Snake was not around now, he would occupy the seat for Snake first. Oriton and Barit sat on the left and right of Wabiai. Meanwhile, Leah directly placed the large stone pot on the table and distributed their own bowls. It's still the most comfortable to eat at my own place. After eating her fill, Gu Mingming stretched lazily and leaned into Elvis's arms. She watched as Oriton cleaned the cutlery without any prompting. Meanwhile, Leah went into the house to take out a large plate of grapes and fed them to Gu Mingming one by one. Leah was a witch doctor and was from the same snow fox tribe as Cole. If he dared to feed Gu Mingming, it meant that there was nothing wrong with the grapes themselves. Moreover, Elvis had eaten some himself and did not show any adverse reactions. So Elvis did not insist on waiting until nighttime to eat these grapes. After Gu Mingming ate 2 grapes, her eyes suddenly rolled. Grapes? Little shit, you have to help me with something. Gu Mingming sat up abruptly and raised her brows at Wabiai. After yesterday's teasing, every time Wabiai saw Gu Mingming smile at him, his hair would stand on end. Crossing his arms in front of his chest, he leaned back and looked at Gu Mingming warily. What? Gu Mingming slammed the table and roared. Put your claws down, don't look like you're forcing me to be a prostitute, alright? Wabiai stiffened his neck. Do you think I should take it down just because you want me to? Do you think I don't want face? Gu Mingming clicked her tongue in disdain and said, Alright. You can just maintain this defiled look and stay there. It's up to you. Wabiai's temples throbbed. What did she mean by defiled? Why does it sound so awkward? He glared at Gu Mingming and said, What exactly do you want me to do? Say it quickly. Chapter 1085. Wabiai's face was filled with disdain, but he didn't reject. He glanced at Elvis and said, Go bring the grapes out. Elvis directly ignored Wabiai's words. Xiaoming wanted to bring the grapes to the stream. He was just doing it for her. There were a total of 9 large stone basins, each filled with grapes. Elvis and Leah took 3 trips to bring out all the stone basins. Barit, Oriton and Wabiai each carried 2 large stone basins towards the stream. When they reached the stream, Fei Rui was also there. He waved at Gu Mingming when he saw her from afar, shouting excitedly, Great messenger. Fei Rui's eyes were really clean, just like those of an innocent puppy. They shone with the purest brightness, making one want to smile at him. When it came to playing with water, no one could compare to Fei Rui. Once he heard that Gu Mingming wanted to wash the grapes, Fei Rui volunteered to handle the part in the water. He got Elvis to pour the 9 large basins of grapes into a more spacious area in the stream. Then he gently shook his cheeks, causing the fish in the stream to form a wall downstream, ensuring that not a single grape would be carried away by the current. Then he transformed into his half-beast form and started swimming in circles. The small fish that had been blocking the way downstream also joined in under Fei Rui's command. One of them swam clockwise in the inner circle, while the other swam anti-clockwise in the middle. Fei Rui swam clockwise in the outermost circle. The grapes danced back and forth in the 3 layers of water, as if they were little fairies that had fallen to the mortal world. Gu Mingming clicked her tongue in wonder as she watched from the shore. Damn, a primitive version of a washing machine. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before saying, "The surface of the water is going to freeze in winter. When do you intend to let him return to the sea?" Lee's arm naturally rested on Elvis's shoulder, his long and narrow eyes sparkling with tears. "Or, do you want to keep him to make fish fillets in vinegar sauce?" Gu Mingming held her forehead. Back in Zacharias, she had told Dora that Fei Rui was the cause of her male's trouble. The two of them still remembered it clearly. Not long after, Fei Rui walked out of the water and transformed a pair of legs at the same time. He allowed the water to slowly drip down his body. He didn't feel that it was inappropriate at all. After all, he was a fish. The grapes seemed to have been given life, jumping into the stone basin one by one. The surface of the grapes reflected the sunlight and the water, looking extremely sparkling. Before Gu Mingming could even thank Fei Rui, she jumped down from Elvis's arms and grabbed Wabiai before throwing him into the water. Wabiai was caught off guard and looked at Gu Mingming in confusion. "What are you doing?" Gu Mingming stood by the shore and rubbed her hands. "Do you want to wash yourself or do you want me to help you?" Cole crossed his arms again and stared at Gu Mingming with a guarded look. "Are you a freaking pervert?" Gu Mingming jumped into the water and gave him another kick, sending Wabiai into the deepest part of the water. "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and wash up to help me grind the grapes." Chapter 1086. Wabiai looked at Gu Mingming as if she was an idiot. "Are you out of your mind? This basin is so small. How can I enter?" Gu Mingming tilted her head. "Just reveal your snake tail and roll around like how Fei Rui did in the water just now. Crush these grapes into pulp for me." Wabiai rolled his eyes at Gu Mingming before retreating into the stream. He reverted to his original form and coiled there. His body, which was as thick as a train, appeared in front of Gu Mingming. He said in snake language, "If you are not blind, look for yourself. Can I even enter?" Gu Mingming looked at Wabiai, then at the stone basin. This stone basin was so big that it could be used as a bathtub for her. But compared to Wabiai's original form, it was just like the cap of a mineral water bottle. If she wanted Wabiai to enter, it would really be difficult. Gu Mingming pursed her lips. "Little shit, you should lose some weight." Wabiai didn't even have the mood to strangle her to death. Anyway, it was not the first or second day that she had been causing a ruckus. He reverted to his human form. "Just crush them into pulp, right?" Gu Mingming nodded. Then Wabiai stuck out his tongue impatiently at a spot not far away. Then over a dozen little snakes as thick as an arm slithered out from the bushes. They didn't come to Gu Mingming. Instead, they entered the stream and swam for a long time, as if they were bathing. Then, Wabiai placed one of the stone basins by the stream. The little snakes directly jumped out of the water and landed accurately in the basin. Then they squirmed around in the basin, causing the grapes to bulge visibly. Then they slowly sank into the basin. Finally, Gu Mingming saw a little snake rolling around in the basin, crushing every single grape into pulp. Not to mention the whole grape. Even the grape seeds could not be seen. Using the same method, the 9 large basins of grapes soon turned into 9 basins of fruit puree. After the little snakes completed their mission, they swam out of the basin, washed their bodies in the stream, and then returned to the bushes as if nothing had happened. While the little snake was crushing the grapes, Gu Mingming had already asked someone to fetch the beast skin and beast tendon. She asked Elvis to scrape a groove on the side of the stone basin, then use the beast skin to cover the stone basin tightly, and use the beast tendon to secure it. This kind of sealing effect was definitely not very good, but there was no place to buy sealed cans here, so they could only do this for the time being. She got Oriton and Barit to carry the 9 pots back to Elvis's cave, while Gu Mengmeng brought her partner and Wabiai into the forest. After wandering around aimlessly for a long time, Gu Mengmeng set her sights on a towering ancient tree. Such a tree would definitely be priceless in the modern world, but it was not something rare in the beast world. Actually, it was quite a pity to chop it down, but Gu Mengmeng wanted to use it now and there was no better choice. So she pointed at the tree and said, "Hubby, I want this tree. Just cut it from here and leave a stump. We can use it as a table the next time we come." Elvis had helped Gu Mengmeng cut the bamboo previously, and was now considered a skilled worker. He cut wherever Gu Mengmeng pointed at, without any deviation. Chapter 1087. As for the fact that Gu Mengmeng kept calling him little shit, he had resisted it at the start. Then it became a shadow in his heart, and now he had gotten used to it. A person's ability to accept was really very strong. Sometimes, Wabiai would think that now that he heard Gu Mengmeng call him Wabiai, he felt strangely nervous and guilty, as if he had been caught doing something extremely bad. The snake tail coiled around the trunk of the tree as it followed Gu Mengmeng back. A 5th-level snake beast was a godlike figure no matter where he was placed, but he just had to be a porter for this little girl. But he just felt that it was not as comfortable as Gu Mengmeng ordering him around when others were serving him. TSK, a natural slave. Wabiai cursed himself in his heart as he dragged the tree back for Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng drew with her pen that the tree trunk should be cut into several sections at waist height. Then, she asked Leah to cut off a piece as thick as a finger from each section. Then, she hollowed out the rest of the tribe to make a wooden barrel. She then cut off a piece to make a lid and used beast skin to wrap the lid to achieve a sealing effect. But the newly made wooden barrel could not be used directly. After all, the smell was too strong. So he asked Barit and Oriton to take it to the stream for Fei Rue to wash it again, before placing it in the shade to dry. Leah used the wood from the wooden barrel to make various types of cutlery, maximizing the use to avoid wastage. Although there were many trees in the beast world, Gu Mengmeng said that environmental protection is very important, so they tried not to cut down too many trees. If they really needed to cut down a tree, they had to make full use of it and not waste it. So Leah piled up the leftover pieces of cutlery at the side, to be used as firewood during winter. By the time everything was sorted out, the sky had already darkened. Oriton never missed mealtimes, so he carried his prey back early and stared at Leah eagerly. If Gu Mengmeng had not seen the word food clearly written in his eyes, she would have fantasized that Oriton had ulterior motives towards Leah. Barit seemed to have moved to a place near Elvis's cave. It was not in Elvis's territory, but close to it, so he followed Oriton here. Ian and Fei Rue were the last to arrive. Both of them looked as if they had something on their minds, and wanted to say something. Gu Mengmeng ignored Ian and instead tugged at Fei Rue to show some concern. "What's wrong? Do you have something to tell me?" Fei Rue's big eyes were clear and clean. Every time they looked into each other's eyes, he felt like he was in the vast galaxy, sparkling and pure. Fei Rue bit his lip and nodded. "Great messenger, I have to return to the sea." This was good news. After all, Leah had just threatened to turn Fei Rue into vinegar fish slices if he did not let Fei Rue go. Although it was a joke, Gu Mengmeng could understand that her nonsense in Zacharias had caused Elvis and Leah to have a knot in their hearts against Fei Rue. Originally, he was still thinking about how to not hurt this child's heart, but now that he took the initiative to bring it up, it was good. Fei Rue said, "I won't be able to come out during winter when the water freezes. Although I don't lack food, I will still feel lonely alone. So I want to return to the sea to see my sister before winter arrives. I will come back during the rainy season next year. Is that okay?" Chapter 1088. Fei Rue shook his head. "I am Fei Rue from Saint Nazaire. I am no longer the Prince of Bridges." Gu Mengmeng glanced at Leah guiltily, then at Elvis. She didn't dare to reply. Leah was satisfied with Gu Mengmeng's reaction. He wagged his tail. When did you join Saint Nazaire? Why didn't I know? Fei Rui blinked his eyes aggrievedly, then looked at Gu Mengmeng. His voice carried a tinge of sobbing like a little puppy. Messenger. Am I not from Saint Nazaire? Gu Mengmeng's heart clenched at his question. She tugged at Li's arm and pursed her lips. She looked at Leah pleadingly. Leah took 2 deep breaths. Up to you. Gu Mengmeng then smiled and said, Bridges is also a part of Saint Nazaire, so you are the Prince of Bridges and also a tribesman of Saint Nazaire. You are from the sea tribe, and are different from the land beasts. It would be too cruel to ask you to stay here even during winter. You can go back if you want. You can come back whenever you want. Saint Nazaire will always welcome you. Fei Rui smiled. His eyes curved like crescent moons. He nodded heavily. He looked extremely happy. That? Gu Mengmeng hesitated for a moment before saying, There's something I feel I should tell you. MMM? Fei Rui tilted his head. He looked at Gu Mengmeng like an innocent child. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. Dora is dead. Fei Rui's expression visibly stiffened. His eyes dimmed. He lowered his head. Oh. Gu Mengmeng didn't press Fei Rui for his feelings. She also didn't want to know what had happened between him and Dora. After all, no matter who was in the right and wrong in the past, Gu Mengmeng still felt that since she was dead, all past wrongs should be forgotten. Gu Mengmeng sighed. Then she smiled. She wanted to ask Fei Rui when he planned to leave. But Fei Rui looked up at Gu Mengmeng first. He took out a beast skin bag and opened it in front of Gu Mengmeng. Oh yes, great messenger. Do you need this? Gu Mengmeng looked down. It looked like salt crystals, but they were much thicker than the ones in Saint Nazaire. She dipped her hand into it and tasted it. It was indeed salty. Gu Mengmeng's eyes lit up. Sea salt? Fei Rui nodded and said, Yes, we mermaids can extract this kind of salt from seawater, but we've never seen land beastmen need it before. I saw Lord Leah using it in his cooking yesterday, and felt that it looked familiar, so I returned to the sea overnight to separate a little for you to see. If it's something useful, I'll separate more from the sea this winter, and bring it back for you during the rainy season next year. The output of the salt lake in Saint Nazaire was limited. Saint Nazaire had already used up a lot of the salt to preserve food in the past 2 years. At this rate, the salt lake would be used up in less than 5 years. Fei Rui's discovery was a great help to Gu Mengmeng, so she nodded repeatedly. It's useful, of course it's useful. Without this thing, I will die. Chapter 1089. Gu Mengmeng nodded and chuckled. But Leah tooted. He has found a good reason to join Saint Nazaire. This time, I can't do anything to him. Gu Mengmeng shook Li's arm and looked up with a smile. All right, don't argue with a child. MMM? Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face. He finally gave up. Then when do you intend to set off? Gu Mengmeng asked. Fei Rui smiled and replied, If the great emissary agrees, I will set off now. So soon? Gu Mengmeng was a little surprised. She thought he would set off tomorrow at the earliest. The sky was already dark. Fei Rui nodded. Anyway, I am going by water. It doesn't matter if there is no sun. Moreover, Melinda is pregnant. I want to hurry back to accompany her. After all, it is her first child. Melinda is pregnant. Gu Mengmeng's reaction was extreme. She immediately jumped up. Her eyes widened and the corners of her lips curled up uncontrollably. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little nose. If Sandy sees your expression, she will definitely be jealous. Wabi chuckled. Those who don't know might think the child is yours. Get lost. Gu Mengmeng roared at Wabi. Then she looked at Fei Rui. All right, hurry back. Help me send my regards to Melinda. Tell her I wish her and her child good health. Yeah, I will. Fei Rui nodded. Then he tilted his head with a smile. Then, great messenger, please enjoy your meal. I will take my leave. Gu Mengmeng insisted on sending Fei Rui off. After all, they would be separated for an entire winter. Elvis and Wabi accompanied Gu Mengmeng to the well to send Fei Rui off. Leah stayed behind to watch over the pot. After watching Fei Rui jump into the well, Gu Mengmeng rested her head on Elvis's shoulder. Actually, he didn't wish for Dora to die. I saw it just now. He was very upset when he heard the news of Dora's death. Elvis tightened his grip around Gu Mingming's waist. Females are a precious resource to every tribe. No matter how weak Fei Rue is, he was once the leader of a tribe. Dora was also someone he valued before. Gu Mingming's eyes widened. After Elvis said that, Gu Mingming frowned. She sat up straight and looked at Elvis. So before I came, Sandy and Maya were also people you valued? Elvis was stunned for half a second before he laughed. Are you kidding me? Before you came, Saint Zay was just a place for me to relieve my boredom. In other words, he didn't care about the tribe, let alone the females in the tribe. In the past, if it wasn't for Leah who kept persuading him not to kill females for the sake of the tribe, how would Nina survive till now? He would have died 800 times over. If a perfect female was like that, what about a half-beast female? Gu Mingming thought about it and agreed. So she chuckled and leaned back on his shoulder. Hubby, am I so petty? The thought of someone else being important to you makes me feel uncomfortable. I like how petty you are. You have to maintain it, understand? Elvis kissed the side of Gu Mingming's face. Gu Mingming pursed her lips and chuckled. She nodded in response. Wabi rolled his eyes at the side. You only know how to flaunt your love for each other all day long. TSK, the entire world is filled with the sour stench of love. Digression. Chapter 1090. By the time she returned to the cave, Leah had just served the piping hot meal on the table. Meanwhile, Oriton was using his life to act out the longing for her with paralysis. Gu Mingming felt that Oriton had never looked forward to seeing her so much in his life. Haha, Gu Mingming could not compare to a bowl of meat. Barit sat quietly at the dining table. That was the spot he had sat at in the afternoon. For some reason, that seat seemed to belong to him. He just wanted to guard it and not let anyone else sit there. Ian leaned against a tree with his arms crossed, still looking at Gu Mingming with a sickly look. Gu Mingming paused when she walked past him and asked, You have something to tell me too, right? Why, is your sister going to give birth too? Ian rolled his eyes at Gu Mingming. He wanted to rebuke her, but held himself back because of Wabi beside her. He just said, Mandy confessed to me. Mandy was one of the 16 valued females brought back from the beauty pageant. She was crowned the first beauty of the beast world by Gu Mingming, because she had recruited the most warriors to enter Saint Nazir at the same time. Gu Mingming thought about it. It seemed that ever since she told everyone the story of the flying bird and the fish, Mandy had been especially attentive towards Ian. She was sure that the flying bird in the story was Ian. She did not know whether it was her maternal instincts overflowing, or she had a special desire to conquer males who had been hurt in love. Anyway, this Mandy had been trying to please Ian for a long time. Ian did not say anything, neither did he reject nor accept. But he had never given other females other than Mandy the chance to please him. So Gu Mingming was not surprised. She just nodded and said, You intend to mate with her? Ian remained silent for a moment before replying. If you don't object, I will mate with her. After all, I have already reached the peak of 3rd level. If I want to break through, I have to mate with her. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment. She snorted and said, Scumbag. Gu Mingming thought that only the Snake King Valley would use females as a tool to level up. Ian chuckled and said, I told Mandy that this is the reason why I am willing to mate with her. She agreed to it herself. Gu Mingming looked at Ian with narrowed eyes for a while, then patted his shoulder and said, Why do you have to do this, just like him? Do you have to make it sound so official and hide your emotions behind your motive? Why bother? At that time, if she really misunderstands you, won't you be the one who will be sad? The tip of Ian's ear was stained with a suspicious red. He turned his face to the side and said, I don't understand what you're saying. Gu Mingming did not expose him. She just swung her arms back and forth and said, It's all right if you don't understand what I am saying. You just need to know what you are doing. Mandy was a good girl. Although she was a little arrogant at times, she was considered very gentle and considerate compared to the other females in the beast world. If you really hurt her heart, you'll be the one regretting it. Gu Mingming did not need to mention how good Mandy was, but Ian himself knew it very well. It was just that he felt a little awkward in his heart. Tilting his head, Ian looked at Gu Mingming from the corner of his eyes. He was a little hesitant, but he still opened his mouth to ask, "Do you really agree to me mating?" Chapter 1091. Ian clenched his fists and took 8 deep breaths before barely stabilizing his emotions. Then he said, "Did you forget that I was the one who formed the blood alliance with Leah? Once I mate, the blood alliance will be useless." Gu Mingming already knew about this long ago. Crossing her arms in front of her chest, Gu Mingming squinted at Ian and said, "You flirted with Mandy last year and delayed mating until this year. Just because of this?" Ian did not admit nor deny it. He just lowered his head and looked to the side. Although the bird tribe had always been arrogant, Ian was after all a hot-blooded male, and did not have much resistance towards females. Moreover, Mandy was beautiful and passionate, so it was natural that he could not resist the temptation. It was just that Gu Mingming had been too busy for the past year, and did not have the time to observe the emotional world of each of her friends. As a result, they had wasted so much time. Gu Mingming patted Ian's shoulder and said, "Didn't I tell you before? Our Saint Nazir does not rely on the blood alliance to keep people, but on the hearts of others. If your heart is with me, I don't need to restrict you and you will stay. If your heart is not here, you will only try your best to escape even with the blood alliance. What's the point of that?" Ian looked at Gu Mingming and did not say a word. Gu Mingming had indeed told him these words in the past, but Ian had not met Mandy then, so he did not take it seriously. After that, Ian developed feelings for Mandy, but was not sure how sincere Gu Mingming's words were. Moreover, even though the Eagle Owl tribe had pledged allegiance to Saint Nazir and many of their tribesmen had mated with Saint Nazir's females, he was still carrying a blood oath. He was also worried that once he mated and broke the blood oath, would Gu Mingming suspect that the Eagle Owl tribe was disloyal? But now it seemed that he had thought too much. Gu Mingming was much more broad-minded than him. Gu Mingming sat back at the table and ate a mouthful of the meat in her bowl. She sighed in satisfaction and said, "You are after all the leader of the Eagle Owl tribe. Your marriage must be held in a grand manner. It just so happens that Saint Nazir hasn't been lively for a long time. Let's use your name to celebrate. Let's all have some fun." Ian walked to Gu Mingming awkwardly and stood by the table to look at her. After a long while he said, "The Eagle Owl tribe has ceased to exist in this world since 2 years ago. I am also not some tribe leader." Pretentious. Gu Mingming clicked her tongue and did not reply. It was rare for Gu Mingming to say such things to him, but he did not have the urge to retaliate. He just lowered his head and said, "Gu Mingming, thank you." Gu Mingming chuckled. "Yeah, mate before winter. Don't drag it out for too long. By then, your status in the family will be lowered again." Ian gritted his teeth and said, Man will only accept me as her partner this year. My position in the family will not be much lower." Man. Gu Mingming looked at Ian meaningfully. Ian's ears turned even redder. He flapped his wings and said, "Since you don't have any objections, I'll go and tell Man. I won't disturb your meal." Gu Mingming waved her hands and said, "Bye-bye." After Ian flew away, only Gu Mingming's family of 3, Wabi, Oriton and Barit, were left. Gu Mingming propped her chin on her hand and said thoughtfully, "The people around me seem to be getting lesser and lesser." Chapter 1092. Gu Mingming. Wabi stood up from the stone bench. He placed one hand on the table and leaned his upper body forward. He placed his other hand on Gu Mingming's shoulder and said with a troubled expression, "Winter is coming and I don't have much time left to accompany you. Hurry up and do whatever you want to do, or else I won't be able to do it with you once I hibernate." You have to leave too?" Yes, Wabi had to return to the Snake King Valley twice a year, during the winter and dry seasons. Once the snow sealed the mountain, Gu Mingming could only stay in the cave with Elvis and Leah for at least 2 to 3 months. During the first winter, she and Elvis had just become partners and were in their honeymoon period. Later on, Leah barged in and the 3 of them stayed together in all sorts of awkward situations. Coupled with the fact that she was groggy due to her pregnancy, Time flew by unknowingly. During the second winter, she went to solder because of Cole's scheme. Other than Elvis and Leah, there were still the 3 little ones by her side. Although she was worried that Chi-Xian was always hanging out with Cole, they were still a lively family and time passed quickly. This year, there was only her, Elvis and Leah left. Gu Mingming lowered her head and chuckled. In the past, I spent the entire year alone and didn't feel lonely. Now that I'm used to having many friends by my side, I can't get used to the sudden silence. Gu Mingming turned to look at Elvis and smiled dejectedly. Hubby, am I too greedy? Elvis's heart ached at the look of disappointment on her face. He kissed her brow gently. Why don't we dig the underground of Saint Nazaire too? Then you can find whoever you want to play with during winter, alright? Gu Mingming shook her head. Sandy is not around, and I don't have any friends to play with. Then I'll ask someone to fetch her back to accompany you. Elvis felt bitter. He had schemed with Leah for so long before he finally got rid of the 4 little ones and Sandy finally stopped fighting with them for his affections. But now he had to fetch her back with his own hands. TSK, Sandy was indeed his #1 love rival. He had to be wary of her. Gu Mingming shook her head. Sandy has her own life. I can't always let her revolve around me. Upon hearing this, Elvis heaved a sigh of relief. Wabi cleared his throat and said, How about I stay behind to accompany you this winter? Gu Mingming pursed her lips and looked at Wabi in disdain. You always sleep like a log every winter. Other than taking up space, you are useless. What's there to compensate? More importantly, hibernating outside the Snake King Valley was not safe for Wabi. Be it temperature, humidity, or other factors, they were all unknown. For animals, the unknown was equal to danger. Although Wabi was very powerful, Gu Mingming was unwilling to let him take such an unnecessary risk. Besides, you know that I hate snakes, I hate shit, and I hate snakes that look like shit. You have all 3 of them, and you still want to sleep in my cave for the whole winter. Aren't you afraid that I won't be able to control myself and make you into snake soup? Chapter 1093. Gu Mingming laughed dryly. Damn, you have reached a whole new level of self-deprecation. Respect, respect. Wabi lifted his chin and took it as a compliment. He mimicked Gu Mingming and cupped his fists. Well said, well said. After the hubbub, everyone dispersed. The next morning, Gu Mingming woke up early, which surprised Leah and Elvis. They circled the large stone basin like a baby and giggled for a long time before leaving the cave. Oriton had yet to return from his hunt. According to Gu Mingming's usual schedule, her breakfast would only start in another 2 hours or so. However, she had woken up early today, causing Oriton, who shared his meals with her, to be unprepared. Barit and Wabi were standing near the entrance of the cave. They were also surprised to see Gu Mingming come out so early. Barit didn't say a word, but Wabi looked up lazily. Why? You can't bear to see me leave? So you're making use of the time to get used to me? Gu Mingming didn't retort. She just chuckled. I have to order you around while you can still move. Wabi's eyes lit up the moment he heard that. He straightened his back and asked Gu Mingming, Who do I want to beat up? When do I go? Gu Mingming chuckled. Wabi was the most warlike person in this world. But it was rare for him to be so energetic. Gu Mingming didn't want to explain that he was overthinking. She just smiled and told Barit, Gather all the single males in the tribe and follow me out after breakfast. All right. Barit remembered that he had already given his life to Gu Mingming, so he didn't need to differentiate between right and wrong when it came to Gu Mingming's orders. He would do whatever she said. Wabi clicked his tongue. What's the point of gathering so many useless people? Isn't it enough to have me? Gu Mingming thought about it and smiled in a flattering manner. Then our great Wabi must be seen by everyone in the world. Wabi instantly felt a chill down his spine. He looked at Gu Mingming defensively. Are you trying to harm me? Gu Mingming nodded calmly. I want to turn you into snake slices and eat you. Wabi snorted in disdain. I'm afraid you'll die from overeating. While they were fooling around, Oriton had already returned from his hunt. Seeing that Gu Mingming had already woken up, He was first taken aback before his expression loosened. It was obvious that he was in a good mood. We can start eating early today. What a pleasant day. He still had a poker face, but Gu Mingming could almost see the colorful flowers blooming on top of his head spinning, as if he had activated the special effect of beautification. Holding her forehead, Gu Mingming felt that her cuteness might have gone awry. Elvis and Leah did not know what Gu Mingming wanted to do, but they were happy to see her full of energy. He had been worried that she would be depressed over Fei Rui's departure, Ian's mating, Wabiai's hibernation, and Sandy's absence. Oriton was in a good mood because he had an early breakfast, because having an early breakfast meant that he could have an early lunch, and then an early dinner. Wabiai was also in a good mood because there was a fight to fight. The single males in the tribe were also very happy. They were inexplicably excited because they had the opportunity to do something for the great messenger. Chapter 1094. After that, there were many different versions of what happened in the beast world. The general direction was about how Gu Mingming led the people of Saint Nazaire in a tough battle against the stray beasts, so much so that the stray beasts were too weak to come out and harass other tribes. Even those tribes that were treated as food every year were spared. This directly pushed Gu Mingming's reputation in the beast world to another level. Of course, there were many people who added fuel to the fire, such as spreading information to guide public opinion, and ordering the stray beasts not to go out and hunt during this winter. However, these were all stories to be told later, so let's not talk about it for now. Everyone except for Gu Mingming herself was dumbfounded when she saw Gu Mingming standing by the lake with her arms crossed in front of her chest. Gu Mingming smiled and asked Elvis, "Do you still remember this place?" Elvis looked around, then nodded with a chuckle, saying, "I remember, I came here before." Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "Yeah, I just wanted to go down and touch a lotus root, but you thought I was going to commit suicide and threw a huge tantrum at me. Silly girl." Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and sighed, thinking to himself that he was not throwing a tantrum at that time. He was scared stiff by her. He thought she was going to transmigrate back and abandon him. The moment he saw her enter the water, he even held his breath. His heart forgot to beat and his pupils dilated instantly. He could still remember the feeling of his blood freezing at that time. At that time, he deeply felt fear and terror. The feeling of watching her slip through the cracks of his fingers, trying his best to hold on to her, but unable to touch her despite the ripples in the water. Even now, when he thought about it, he still felt like his heart was being pricked by countless needles. Gu Mingming did not refute and only took 2 steps back, saying, "I won't go near the water surface, I will just stand here. You won't be worried like this, right?" Elvis chuckled and kissed Gu Mingming's forehead, saying, "Go down if you want to, I'm not worried." Gu Mingming was taken aback. She clearly remembered that Elvis looked like he was possessed the moment she got close to the surface of the lake. Now he suddenly said that he was not worried? Elvis pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and said, "At that time, I was too uneasy. I was worried that I was nothing in your heart. Worried that you would abandon me without hesitation. Worried that there was nothing in the beast world that was worth your nostalgia. I was too afraid that you would smile at me and say goodbye before falling into the lake, sinking all the way down to a place where I can no longer reach." At that time, she had not mated with Leah yet. Elvis always felt that she only loved Leah and not him. No matter how many times she said that, he just thought she was comforting him. From the bottom of his heart, he did not believe that she had feelings for him. Did he really think that she could abandon him at any time? So no matter how tormented his heart was, he still tried his best to bring her and Leah together, just so that he could place a little more bargaining chip on her scale. As long as she hesitated for a second when she wanted to leave, it would be enough for him to catch her in time. At the end of the day, it was the incident of her jumping into the lake when she was heartbroken that had traumatized Elvis. Now he said he was not afraid anymore. So, Chapter 1095. I'm sorry. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and planted a kiss between her brows. His eyes were filled with adoration. "I didn't believe this earlier." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back and rested her chin on his chest. It's not too late to believe it now. Gu Mingming tiptoed and kissed Elvis on the chin. Then can I enter the water? Elvis lowered his head and held the back of her head with one hand. He quickly kissed her lips, which she was about to pull away from. After a long lingering kiss, he said gently, I will accompany you. Whenever Gu Mingming was around, everyone's gazes would unknowingly be on her. This resulted in this kiss being a public performance. Although they had been married for 2 years and had given birth to 4 children, Gu Mingming still felt it was inappropriate to display their affection in public. Blushing, she plunged into the water. Following that, 2 splashing sounds could be heard. Elvis and Leah must have jumped in right after her. Gu Mingming swam for a while before popping her head out to take a look. She realized that her 2 men and Wabi were all in the water, but they were clearly standing. Damn. Height was indeed her weakness. The lotus flowers had already wilted. Only a large patch of lotus leaves swayed gently in the middle of the lake. Gu Mingming swam towards the middle of the lake. Elvis and Leah followed closely behind her, guarding her on both sides. Gu Mingming tried to dig out a lotus root, but it was hard for her to use her strength underwater. Hence, she could only return to the surface and explain the rough plan to Wabi before ordering him to do the hard work. Wabi stared at Gu Mingming with a king's disdainful gaze. Don't tell me that this is what you need my help with. Gu Mingming couldn't help but want to laugh at the thought of Wabi being happy the entire morning because he thought there was going to be a fight. She had been enjoying teasing Wabi more and more recently. It was quite interesting to see him hopping mad, but unable to do anything to her. Although she had always been the one bullying Wabi never bore a grudge against her. Instead, the more she bullied him, the better their relationship became. This made Gu Mingming feel at ease. Gu Mingming really did not like that kind of relationship where she had to handle it carefully. Wabi didn't even need to dive into the water to dig out the lotus roots. In his half-beast form, he used his snake tail to probe into the mud, and with a casual tug, a huge lotus root was pulled out of the water along with the mud. Wabi did not hold back at all, and directly threw it at Gu Mingming. Elvis quickly caught the lotus root that was as thick as Gu Mingming's thigh, then looked at her in a daze. Although Elvis's hands were quick and avoided the lotus root hitting her face, it did not stop the mud on the lotus root from splashing onto Gu Mingming's face. F***ck. Now Gu Mingming could act as Master Bao just by sticking a crescent on her face. Little. **T. Gu Mingming wiped her face carelessly, then picked up the lotus and chased after Wabi. It was rare for Wabi to take advantage of something, and he felt an inexplicable sense of accomplishment. He felt as if he had reached the peak of his life. How could she catch up to Wabi in the water? Even if she had the kiss of the beast god, she wouldn't be able to swim faster than a snake. Chapter 1096. The truth was, Wabi still came up after all, and Gu Mingming did not really slice him into slices and stew the lotus roots. That was because he had plucked almost all the lotus roots in the water before coming up. At that moment, Gu Mingming only had eyes for the lotus roots and had long forgotten about chopping Wabi. This lake was a distance away from Saint Nazaire, and they had only arrived in the afternoon after setting off in the morning. Although Wabi was strong, he only had one tail. Although there were other males in the water to help, their swimming skills were not as good as Wabi's, and it was more strenuous for them to work underwater. So by the time everyone finished plucking the lotus roots, it was already midnight. During this period, Gu Mingming had already eaten dinner, and instructed everyone not to wash off all the mud on the lotus roots so that they could maintain their freshness. After camping out in the wild for a night, the atmosphere was very good. When Gu Mingming was not around, Saint Nazaire was always in a tense state. The males with partners focused on protecting their own females while the single males risked their lives to protect the tribe. Although they loved to fight, a long battle would also make them very tired. On such a bloodless night, everyone laughed and chatted around the messenger of the beast deity, doing something that was not difficult but required unity. This level of physical labor was not enough to make the males feel tired, but this was the first time in their lives digging lotus roots, and they often ended up covered in mud. Occasionally, They would even get hit in the head by the lotus roots. Although they did not suffer any injuries, they still ended up chasing each other around. In the tranquil night, everyone discussed the interesting things that happened during the day as waves of laughter rippled out. In such an atmosphere, Gu Mingming had a dreamless night and slept exceptionally soundly. The next morning, Gu Mingming woke up on her designated seat and greeted with a hoarse voice. "Good morning." Elvis and Leah stood on her left and right, protecting her in the middle, ensuring that the cool night breeze would not blow at her. Their furry tails lightly covered her eyes, ensuring that the sunlight would not dazzle her eyes. Hearing her soft good morning, the two large tails released each side and two red lips landed on Gu Mingming's cheeks at the same time. "Good morning." "Good morning." On one side was a subwoofer while on the other was a cello. Two different sounds played together, creating the first good mood for Gu Mingming every morning. After getting up and packing up, the males had already tied up the lotus roots with the tree vines they had plucked overnight and carried them on their backs. Gu Mingming naturally did not have to carry them herself. Wabi walked up to Gu Mingming and looked down at her condescendingly. "I am leaving." Gu Mingming smiled and nodded. "Yeah, see you next year." Without saying anything more, Wabi turned and swam towards the Snake King Valley. On the other hand, Gu Mingming just patted her own face and snuggled into Elvis's arms. After giving the order, they headed back to Saint Nazir on the path they came from. "You said it's to dig up lotus roots, but it's actually to give Wabi, right?" Leah wagged his large tail and looked at Gu Mingming slyly. Chapter 1097. After returning to Saint Nazir, Guam Mingming distributed the lotus roots equally to the females and omnivorous orcs in the tribe. Gu Mingming's house had 2 portions for herself and Leah. Although it was not a lot, it was at least one more side dish compared to last year and the year before. Otherwise, Gu Mingming would really go crazy if she had to eat potatoes, meat and sweet potato paste every day. Elvis did not spend much time at home recently. He would leave very early every day and return very late. He had been busy hunting and storing food. He could not do much in terms of vegetables, but at least he had to try his best to satisfy Gu Mingming's needs in terms of meat. So not only did he demand quantity and quality, he also had an almost perverted obsession with the type of meat. It was as if he was collecting stamps and could not wait to hunt all kinds of stamps for Gu Mingming. Leah stayed at home to accompany Gu Mingming as he pickled the prey Elvis brought back. By right, this should be Lee's favorite job, but now, Gu Mingming supported her cheeks with both hands and tilted her head to look at Leah, who was rubbing the rouge and meat. She would poke Lee's chest with her fingers every now and then and chuckle. "Mingming," Leah called out to her helplessly. Gu Mingming smiled, her bright eyes reflecting the sunlight. She looked at Leah and said, "How long is the gestation period of a fox? If we work harder this winter, will we be able to have a nest of little foxes by the time winter ends tomorrow?" It was the topic of childbirth again. As Elvis already had 4 sons, Gu Mingming had never pestered him to talk about these things. From a certain point of view, it could be said that she had escaped a calamity. Leah had originally thought that she would forget about this matter after a few days, but in the end, once they were alone, Gu Mingming would pester him and talk about little fox nonstop. He didn't dare to tell her that he didn't want to give birth because she would look at him with tears in her eyes and ask him if he didn't love her, so he didn't want her to give birth to little foxes. Only God knew how much he wanted a nest of children of their own. But she had forgotten the torture she had suffered during her last labor, but he still remembered it clearly. That day, his whole body was trembling. His heart felt as if it was tied into a dead knot by thorns. Every breath he took made his heart ache. At that time, she was not his partner yet, but his heart had already ached to this extent. Now he couldn't bear to see her suffer in the slightest. If only giving birth was something that a male could do for her, then he would definitely fulfill her desire to have a nest of little foxes, even at the cost of his life. However, he couldn't feel the pain for her. "Hey Leah, are you really not going to touch me for the rest of your life?" Gu Mingming leaned forward and placed her little hand on Lee's shoulder. She laid her entire body on Lee's back and whispered into his ear. During winter, the entire cave is sealed off by the heavy snow and the entire cave is sealed. Once I think about that, The fox seductive fragrance will fill the entire cave, and it won't dissipate. Are you sure you can endure it? I'm not sure. Leah gritted his teeth in anger. Did he still need the fox seductive fragrance? Now that she was sticking to him like this, it was enough to fill his chest with fire. He wanted nothing more than to immediately push her down and ruthlessly bully her. Chapter 1098. Leah put down the salt and bacon in his hands and switched between his beast and human form, so that he was clean and spotless. Standing up, he hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms, wrapping his left arm around her waist to encircle her tightly in his embrace. His right hand pinched her chin, adjusting the angle of her line of sight, so that her eyes could meet his. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng seriously and affectionately. Mengmeng, I am a witch doctor and I can say that there is no one in the beast world with better medical skills than me. But even so, when you were giving birth to Kanwu, I could only pray helplessly to the beast deity, begging him to let you be safe. The helplessness of watching you hover on the line between life and death while I can't do anything will really drive me crazy. But Gu Mengmeng wanted to say that it was her first time giving birth to Hutta and his brothers, so it was inevitable that it would be more difficult. Moreover, she now had Snake's powers to protect her, so she would definitely be fine. But Leah did not give her a chance to speak. All the words after her, but were stuck in her throat and crushed into lingering whimpers with the tip of his tongue. It was only until Gu Mengmeng was lying limply in Lee's arms and her nostrils were already filled with the faint fox seductive fragrance, did Leah finally stop the kiss. His long and narrow eyes were deep and misty, filled with infinite forbearance and helplessness. He said, when you were injured in the Snake King Valley, the most fortunate thing for me was that I was a witch doctor and could save you. But I hope that my medical skills will never be used on you. Mengmeng, I said before, if you are hurt in the slightest, it would be destroying my heart. These words are not just empty words. When a female gives birth, there is a slim chance of survival. Even if you have Snake's powers to protect you, the pain is still there. The scene of you giving birth to Kanwu is still my and Elvis's nightmare. If I were to experience the scene of you being in so much pain, yet being unable to do anything about it, Mengmeng, I can tell you in advance that I might not be able to endure the pain in my heart, and cut open my own chest to crush my own heart with my own hands. Even so, if you still want to give birth to a nest of little foxes, I will give them to you. Gu Mengmeng stopped fooling around and looked at Leah with a pitiful expression. She pouted her lips and muttered, if you don't want to give birth, then don't. Why did you have to make it sound so scary? Leah heaved a sigh of relief. Promise me, you're not allowed to mention giving birth to little foxes in the future. Fine, I won't mention it. With that, Gu Mengmeng turned around and walked into the cave in a huff, ignoring Leah. This was the first time Leah allowed her to throw a tantrum without going in to comfort her. He couldn't back down on this matter. He clearly knew what she would experience during childbirth, so how could he bear to do it? Sighing helplessly, Leah squatted back beside the pile of salt to continue marinating the meat. He turned around to look at the entrance of the cave. There was no movement at all. He must be really angry. If only you were like Oriton, then I could make a lot of delicious food to coax you. Leah smiled helplessly. Then he secretly remembered to remind Elvis that other than beasts on land, Mengmeng also liked fish in the water and bird eggs in the trees. He must remember to bring some back next time. Gu Mengmeng threw a tantrum for 2 to 3 days. Elvis and Leah became very careful at home. In the end, Elvis couldn't stand Gu Mengmeng's gloominess and suggested a solution. Aside from the topic, yeah, today's update is over. Remember to help Susu light up the 5 stars when my babies leave comments. Thank you, baby. Chapter 1099. Xiaomeng. Elvis placed Gu Mengmeng on his thighs and held her shoulders with both hands. He accommodated her height and looked into her eyes, saying, I know you have been in a bad mood these few days, but not letting you suffer is the bottom line that Leah and I will never give in to. So, do you want to take a nap and meet the beast deity? See if he has a little cheat similar to the kiss of the beast deity that can save you from the pain of childbirth. If he does let you give birth, But if even the beast deity has no solution, then don't mention this matter again. And don't be in a bad mood because of this matter, alright? Gu Mingming smacked her head. Oh, why didn't I think of that? With that, she peeked at Leah, waiting for him to express his stance. Leah always had his ways with Gu Mingming. Regardless of whether she cried or threw a tantrum, he would always have a way to coax her. Only this time, she did not cry or make a fuss. She was even more cruel and sinister than the time when she chased him and Elvis out of the cave in the stray beast camp. This absolute cold-blooded violence was really driving him crazy. These few days he had almost given in and said, give birth, give birth. If worse comes to worst, I will dig my heart out and commit suicide. Yes. Now that she had finally relented, he instantly felt as if spring had returned to the land. Sitting beside Elvis, he held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it, saying, you have to promise me, if the beast deity has no other choice, you can't throw a tantrum over this again. Gu Mingming nodded. Then, she smiled for the first time in these few days. Turning around, Gu Mingming lay on the side of the bed. Then she slowly closed her eyes, but the corners of her lips were still curled up. Layers of white fog blew towards them. When Gu Mingming saw the beast deity standing in the clouds, she could not help but smile guiltily. The previous time she came, she said that she wanted to be a filial daughter and come back to watch television with him when she was free. But after the incident with Oakley, she suddenly had a deep understanding of parting. She desperately wanted to cherish the person in front of her. Hence, he completely forgot about his promise to the beast deity. As the saying goes, a guilty person smiles first. Gu Mingming smiled like a sunflower and pounced into the beast deity's arms. She said in a sweet Hong Kong accent, Papa, I missed you so much. The beast deity was a highly skilled person after all. He did not even laugh at Gu Mingming's fawning. He maintained his usual kind and amiable demeanor as he gently patted Gu Mingming's little head. Yeah, a married daughter is like spilled water. Although I was already mentally prepared, I was still looking forward to it when you said you would come back to accompany me more often. Ah. Gu Mingming felt an arrow piercing her heart. She looked pitifully at the beast deity and blinked her eyes. The words "please forgive me" were clearly written on her face. The beast deity held Gu Mingming's hand and walked towards the two-seater wooden chair as he said, It's all right, little magpie, you have a long tail. Once you have a wife, you will forget your mother. Chapter 1100. Why did he sound like he was angry? Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around the beast deity's arm and said coquettishly, Father, I know I was wrong. Don't be angry, don't be angry. The beast deity heaved a long sigh of relief before pulling Gu Mingming's hand to sit on the long bench. All right, you heartless little thing. I have already scolded you and my anger has subsided. Since you are back, accompany me to watch television. We can talk about pocket money after that. All right. Gu Mingming obediently held onto the beast deity's arm as they sat side by side on the two-seater wooden bench. Her furry little head rested on the beast deity's arm. Perhaps it was because they had known each other for a long time, or because she kept calling him father, but if one ignored the beast deity's overly young appearance, the two of them really did look like father and daughter. The beast deity waved his hand, and a large part of the white fog dissipated. The image showed Monsieur Company's internal employee forum. There was a post titled, CEO's wife arrogantly declared her sovereignty while the CEO turned into a wife-protecting maniac and accompanied her the entire time. P.S. There are pictures to prove the truth. The post was pushed to the top by many replies within a few minutes. Then, it was deleted. Following that was an announcement from the CEO's office. The reason for deleting the post was that the surveillance footage provided by the post was not clear enough and did not perfectly display CEO's wife's beauty and intelligence. After being magnified 20 times, there was a mosaic on her facial features. Different angles of the screenshots also showed that her eyelashes were deformed. Regarding this, the CEO was furious. The solution was as follows. 1. The entire company's surveillance cameras had to be upgraded immediately. The quality of the images had to be the best in the world. The screenshots had to be projected directly onto the LED screens of the company's buildings, so that every pore could be clearly seen. 2. Monsieur Company reserves the right to pursue the infringement of image of the CEO's wife for violating the rights to her portrait. 3. All employees immediately went to the latest highlight post to confirm and remember the CEO's wife's appearance. If any employee in Monsieur Company could not recognize the CEO's wife under any circumstances, it would mean that the employee lacked the most basic loyalty to Monsieur Company and would be fired. Following that, a new post was pinned by the officials. It was bolded, highlighted, and highlighted. The striking red font was unique in the corporate forum. The title of the post was, "The CEO's wife made a high-profile and domineering tour to declare her sovereignty. The CEO turned into a wife-protecting maniac and accompanied her the whole time. P.S. There are pictures and the truth." 2. HD version. The original content in the post was not changed at all. It was just that the photos had been replaced with the high-definition version that the technical department had just revised. The images in the monitor were carefully selected frame by the employees of the technical department and the corporate public relations department. The CEO only had one request, that was no matter what the CEO looked like in the images, as long as the CEO's wife looked good, it was fine. This post was like a torpedo thrown into the corporate forum, blowing up the warehouse manager Old Wong, who had been lurking in the shadows for many years. Chapter 1101. Yeah, everyone in Monsieur Company knew that the CEO was delighted today, except for the female lead who was focused on peeling an apple in the CEO's office, Gu Mengmeng. After peeling the apple, Gu Mengmeng cut the apple into 4 pieces and removed the gap in the middle. She brought it to Snake and asked, "Do you want to eat it?" Snake closed the computer gently, then looked at Gu Mengmeng with a chuckle and said, "You eat it." Oh. Gu Mengmeng thought that Snake did not want to eat it, and thought that most guys did not like to eat fruits. Hence, she did not stand on ceremony and took a bite. The juices flowed everywhere and the sweetness of the fruit filled her mouth. Gu Mengmeng's eyes instantly curved and she smiled in satisfaction. Snake held on to Gu Mengmeng's little hand and sent the half of the apple into his mouth. Then he nodded and said, "Yeah, it's really delicious." Gu Mengmeng blushed and said, "Didn't you not eat it?" Snake raised his brows and asked, "When did I say I'm not eating it?" Gu Mengmeng was speechless and handed one of the remaining 3 pieces of apple to Snake. But Snake shook his head and said, "I don't like eating apples." "Then just now the food you ate is an exception." Snake chuckled, and then pulled open a drawer under the boss's desk. He took out a sapphire blue box from it. With one hand he pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms. His long arms wrapped around Gu Mengmeng's waist, and he opened the box with his slender fingers. Inside was an exquisite collarbone necklace. The 2 letters MS were designed to look like electrocardiograms. The bottom left corner of M and the top right corner of S were respectively circled into small hearts and connected to the necklace. Snake's chin rested on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder. He tilted his head and his lips lightly brushed against Gu Mengmeng's cheek, creating an ambiguous atmosphere. "Do you like it?" Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and said, "For me." Snake chuckled and said, "Other than you, who else's name is worthy to be linked with mine?" So M was the first letter of Meng in Gu Mengmeng's name, whiles was the first letter of Snake's name. Gu Mengmeng's heart was filled with sweetness. She glanced sideways and asked, "When did you prepare?" When Gu Mengmeng turned her face, her lips met Snake's. Although it was just a light brush, Gu Mengmeng still felt her face heating up. She instinctively shrank back and looked elsewhere, not daring to look at Snake. Snake did not force her, but the smile on his lips deepened. "Shall I help you put it on?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and lifted her hair. Snake gently helped her put on the necklace properly. Then he gently caressed the necklace with his fingers and said with a deep gaze, "Remember, don't take it off. This necklace is a sign that you belong to me." Gu Mengmeng was originally quite touched, but why did she suddenly feel that the pink bubble had burst? A symbol that belonged to him. Was it similar to a dog's collar? "You don't like it?" Snake asked. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and said, "It's not that I don't like it, It's just that other people give couples rings or something. Why did you give a necklace? Chapter 11:02. Before he finished his sentence, Snake had already pulled open the drawer where he took out the necklace. He took out a red velvet box and opened it to reveal a pair of snake-shaped rings. The male and female rings were placed side by side. They were two intertwined snakes, with a diamond in the middle. It was not a particularly extravagant size, but it was dazzling and eye-catching. Even a fool would know that it was worth a lot. When the two rings were separated, the diamond was embedded in the female ring. It was obviously an extra piece, but it didn't stand out. Just looking at the shape of the female ring, it looked like a snake was coiling around the diamond to protect it. It was very special and exquisite. On the other hand, the male ring was missing a piece. It looked like an incomplete snake, giving off a sense of fragility. Gu Mingming looked at the rings in confusion. She did not understand why the rings Snake had prepared were in the shape of a snake. Snake caressed the diamond on the ring gently. Do you know? To a snake, the heart is not its weakness, but its gallbladder is. The place where this diamond is located is where the gallbladder of the male snake is. He gave his gallbladder to the female to protect, which means that in the eyes of the male snake, the female is more important than his own life. When the two rings are together, they are a lingering pair. If they are separated, the male snake will be incomplete. A snake without gallbladder will die. Snake held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it. If you stay by my side, I will be happy. If you leave me, I will die. When I put this ring on for you, it means that I am entrusting my life to you. And I have already prepared the rings. What about you? Are you ready to wear them? For some reason, when Gu Mingming heard the words "a snake without gallbladder will die," she felt as if her heart was stung by a bee. The slight pain made her frown. Closing the lid of the ring box, Gu Mingming shook her head. We just confirmed our relationship, it's too fast. Snake did not force her. After all, she had not reached the legal age for marriage. Moreover, regardless of whether she had the certificate, he would not allow anyone else to snatch her away. So this pair of rings had to be worn on her finger sooner or later. He would not tell Gu Mingming what had happened in the beast world. He had designed this pair of rings just to let her know that no matter how many times he had to go back, he would still be willing to cut open his chest for her. Whether it was in the beast world or here, she was more important than his life. I'll only borrow your life once. This journey will be the rest of my life. Snake gently kissed the side of Gu Mingming's face, saying gently but without any resistance, Tu Meng, we still have a long time to be together, so take it slow, I'm not in a hurry. However, you must know one thing. You promised to be with me, and I won't allow you to go back on your word. As long as you don't leave me, I can do whatever you want. Gu Mingming smiled. Promise me anything? Yes. Snake nodded. Gu Mingming smiled and said, Then let's raise a dog, all right? Gu Mingming had a thing for furry animals, but due to financial reasons, she had never kept any small animals. In the past, she had fantasized about raising a pet with her boyfriend one day. That must be a wonderful thing. However, Snake raised his brows and his eyes darkened. Chapter 11:03. Sniggering, Snake asked, What kind of dog do you want? Gu Mingming thought for a while and said, Something like a golden retriever or a Samoyed that is obedient and good-looking. It would be very eye-catching if you bring it out for a walk. Snake held on to Gu Mingming's waist and made her stand up to face him. He looked up and smiled. I have a better suggestion. Gu Mingming was curious. Snake pulled out his tie and stuffed it into Gu Mingming's hands. Then, he stood up and placed both his hands on the office table beside Gu Mingming. He tilted his upper body and hugged Gu Mingming to his chest. His thin lips pressed against her ear and he said, I will be your dog and listen to you. I will let you look at me however you want. Gu Mingming's face turned red and she instinctively tightened her grip on Snake's tie. Snake took the opportunity and pounced on Gu Mingming, pressing her onto the office table. The smile at the corner of his lips spread to the bottom of his eyes. Snake said in a teasing tone. Moreover, Walking me will definitely be more eye-catching than walking a golden retriever or samoyed. What do you think? Girlfriend. You. You get up first. This position was so intimate that Gu Mingming felt like she could not breathe. But Snake pursed his lips and seemed to be thinking about something. After thinking for a while, he said, "If you want a pet to be obedient, you have to give some reward, right?" What reward? Gu Mingming whispered. Snake kissed Gu Mingming's lips lightly and said, "Stroke my head and say my snake is so obedient." Gu Mingming blushed and felt as if she was being kissed by Snake's cuteness. She raised her hand and touched Snake's head gently. She said softly, My snake is so obedient." Snake gave Gu Mingming another peck on the lips in satisfaction before straightening his body. Snake's lips were still curled upwards. He had always been envious of Leah being stroked by Gu Mingming in her arms. Now that he had experienced it, it felt really good. It was no wonder that the fox did not mind others calling him a beast pet. If being a pet could receive such tenderness from her, then there was no difference between being a dog and being a snake to Snake. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking came from the door. Gu Mingming hurriedly stood up and adjusted Snake's suit and tie. Due to the pressure just now, there were some slight creases on Snake's suit, which Gu Mingming could not smooth even after stroking it a few times. But Snake did not mind at all and directly said, "Come in." Gu Mingming instinctively took a step back, but Snake hugged her waist. He lowered his head to look into her eyes and said, "Continue tidying, don't push me away." The Secretary General, who came in to report, was forcefully stuffed with a handful of dog food. Fortunately, he was calm and collected. He was stunned for 2 seconds before he adjusted his state of mind and said, "President, there will be a meeting in 5 minutes. The senior executives are already waiting for you in the conference room." Snake did not say a word. He just raised his hand and made a get-out gesture with 2 fingers, meaning that he understood. The secretary was already used to Snake's simple and crude way of handling things, so he bowed respectfully and said, "CEO Madam, I will leave first. If you need anything, please call me anytime." Chapter 1104. Tu Meng, come here. Snake held Gu Mingming's hand and walked into the resting room in the office. Then he pulled open the wardrobe door and said, "Choose one, I will change." Gu Mingming knew that it was Snake's working hours now. As a CEO, he had to dress appropriately. His nobility meant that he would not wear a wrinkled suit to attend important meetings. "Don't hug me in the office next time." Gu Mingming mumbled softly. Snake hugged her from behind and asked softly, "Why?" Gu Mingming replied, "It's too troublesome to change clothes after a hug." "I don't find it troublesome." Snake chuckled. He knew that his Tu Ming had misunderstood, but he did not want to explain, because in a while, she would know why he wanted to change his clothes. Gu Mingming's lips curved upwards at Snake's words. It was a beautiful smile. Taking out a dark coffee-colored suit, Gu Mingming placed it on Snake's body and measured it. Gu Mingming's eyes widened in shock. It was a 4-piece business suit. It was the kind of suit that only the top talents who walked out of elite magazines would wear. The word Meng was clearly embroidered on the left chest area. It was not an M, but the Chinese word Meng. Gu Mingming blinked at Snake and said, "This?" Snake chuckled and kissed her shocked eyes. Then he said, "I prepared it long ago. It's just that I have the right to wear it now. I wanted to tattoo it on my chest, but this body belongs to you. I did not dare to use it without your consent. I could only settle for the next best thing. I embroidered your name on every piece of my clothes to announce to the world that I am yours." He gave her a necklace and said that it was proof that she belonged to him. She felt a little awkward and felt that it was a leash used to tie a dog, but he treated himself to the extreme. He blocked all the possibilities of other people having wild thoughts about him without any blind spots. He really gave up an entire forest for her, a small tree, and it was the size of the Amazon rainforest. Gu Mingming pounced into Snake's arms and hugged him tightly. She said, "You are really the best boyfriend in the world." Snake chuckled and hugged Gu Mingming back. With her in his arms, his life seemed to be full. This feeling was really blissful. Moreover, his body was warm now. Even if he hugged her like this, he didn't have to worry about her feeling uncomfortable from the cold. Yes, and he will be the best husband in the world in the future. Gu Mingming blushed and instinctively glanced in the direction of Snake's desk. Snake cupped Gu Mingming's little face with both hands and kissed her. All right, I'm going to the meeting. Wait for me here. Gu Mingming nodded. Then, Snake walked out of the resting room wearing the suit with the word Meng embroidered on the left chest, and went straight to the meeting room. After Snake left, the air in the office gradually cooled down, and Gu Mingming was finally able to breathe properly. Slumping on the sofa, Gu Mingming gently touched the necklace around her neck. The necklace that reflected the sunlight and emitted a dazzling glow became warm because of her body temperature. You're tuning into the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.